The war room of the Velkari High Council buzzed with desperate energy. Admiral Veltar stood before the massive holographic display, watching red markers disappear one by one from the galactic map. Each marker represented a star system. Each disappearance meant billions of lives lost to the machines they called the Devourers. 12 core worlds in 12 days, Veltar said, his forearms trembling with rage. Our best weapons cannot even scratch their hulls. Our shields collapse within minutes of contact. Council leader Zephyron leaned forward in his crystalline throne. The ancient being had ruled for 3 centuries, but now looked fragile and old. The archives speak of only one species that ever showed promise against adaptive technology. The humans of the 3rd planet in the Sol system. Humans? Veltar laughed bitterly. Those primitive creatures barely have spaceflight. They still use chemical rockets and metal bullets. Yet they survived every extinction event on their world, Zephyron replied. Ice ages, asteroid impacts, plagues, wars. They adapt faster than any species we have ever studied. Perhaps there is something in their minds that could help us. The council chamber fell silent. Outside the massive windows, Velkari warships prepared for what might be their final battle. The Devourers were only days away from the home system. You want us to study primitives while our civilization burns? Another council member asked. We have tried everything else, Zephyron said. Our greatest minds have failed. Our most advanced weapons are useless. Perhaps the solution lies not in our technology, but in how these humans think. Veltar studied the data streams flowing across his personal display. Human military history showed patterns that made no sense to Velkari logic. They won battles they should have lost. They survived situations that should have killed them. They turned defeats into victories through methods that defied military science. Very well, Veltar said. I will take a strike team to Earth. We will collect samples of their best tactical minds. Be careful, Zephyron warned. The humans may be primitive, but they are also unpredictable. Do not underestimate them. 3 days later, Captain Yuna guided her stealth ship through Earth's atmosphere. The humans had primitive detection systems, but Velkari technology was thousands of years ahead. They moved like ghosts through the night sky. Target locations identified, her tactical officer reported. Military bases, research facilities, and command centers across the planet. Yuna studied the mission parameters. They needed diverse samples of human leadership and strategic thinking. Military commanders, scientists, engineers, and pilots. The humans would never know what hit them. Begin extraction protocols, she ordered. At Peterson Space Force Base in Colorado, Dr. Jiwon Park worked late in her laboratory. As both a military strategist and xenobiologist, she studied theoretical alien combat scenarios. It was mostly academic work, but the military wanted to be prepared for any possibility. The lights flickered once, then died. Emergency power kicked in, bathing the lab in red light. Jiwon reached for her phone, but the device was dead. All the computers had shut down. The door to her lab dissolved like mist. 3 figures in silver suits walked through the opening. They looked humanoid but wrong. Too tall, too thin, with 4 arms and eyes that glowed in the darkness. Dr. Jiwon Park, one of them said in perfect English. You will come with us. Before she could move, a beam of blue light struck her. The world faded to black. Similar scenes played out across the globe. At Osan Air Base in South Korea, pilot Nyeon Choi was pulled from her F-35 during a night training exercise. The fighter jet simply stopped responding to commands, then landed itself while alien figures waited on the runway. In Seoul, engineer Hyeon Kim was taken from his workshop where he designed advanced manufacturing systems. The aliens walked through walls like they were made of air, immune to all security measures. At Camp Pendleton, Marine Sergeant Min-Ho Lee was conducting training exercises when his entire unit collapsed unconscious. Only he remained awake long enough to see the silver figures approaching through the smoke. The extraction team moved with surgical precision across the planet. They took 37 humans in total, selecting individuals with the highest tactical intelligence ratings from their preliminary scans. None of Earth's governments detected the operation. The aliens used technology that bent light and sound around their ships. Their extraction beams left no traces. To the humans, it would look like these people had simply vanished. Aboard the Velkari flagship Sovereign's Pride, the captured humans slowly awakened in crystalline holding cells. The walls were transparent but completely solid. The air smelled of ozone and unfamiliar chemicals. Jiwan was the first to fully recover from the stunning beam. She found herself in a white room with a force field door and no windows. Through the barrier, she could see other cells containing her fellow captives. "Where are we?" called out Hyun from the cell next to hers. "Unknown," Jiwan replied, studying their prison with a tactical eye. "The technology is far beyond anything on Earth. We are definitely not on our planet anymore." Neon pressed against her cell wall. "These walls feel solid, but they look like glass. I have never seen anything like this material." "Energy-based matter," Minho said from across the corridor.
"Theoretical stuff."
"If these things can build with pure energy, we are dealing with technology centuries ahead of ours." The cells were arranged in a circle around a central platform. As the humans talked, trying to understand their situation, the platform began to glow. A holographic figure appeared, tall and impossibly thin with 4 arms and glowing eyes. "Greetings, humans," the figure said. "I am Admiral Veltar of the Velkari Defense Fleet. You have been selected for a great honor. Your species will help save our civilization." "Save your civilization?" Jiwan stepped forward. "By kidnapping us?" "Your people possess unique mental patterns," Veltar explained. "You adapt to impossible situations. You find victory where logic says only defeat exists. We need to understand how your minds work." "What are you talking about?" Neon demanded. The hologram gestured, and the walls around them became transparent screens. Images flashed past, showing massive metallic creatures consuming entire planets. Ships the size of moons covered in weapons that tore through space itself. "The Devourers have awakened," Veltar said. "They consume our technology and adapt to our weapons instantly. In 12 days, they have destroyed 12 worlds. Our home system will fall within a week unless we find new strategies." The humans stared at the images in horror. The scope of destruction was beyond anything they could imagine. Entire civilizations reduced to scrap metal and empty space. "You want us to help you fight those things?" Hyun asked. "We want to study how you think," Veltar corrected. "Your brains will be scanned and analyzed. Your tactical knowledge will be extracted and processed. This will help our strategists develop new approaches to combat." "And then what happens to us?" Minho asked. Veltar's expression did not change. "That depends on how useful you prove to be." The hologram faded, leaving the humans alone in their cells. Around them, the massive ship continued its journey through the void, carrying them toward a war that would determine the fate of the galaxy. The medical bay of the Sovereign's Pride looked more like a laboratory than a hospital. Curved walls lined with alien instruments hummed with unknown energy. Dr. Jiwan Park lay strapped to a table while mechanical arms moved around her head, scanning her brain with beams of colored light. "Fascinating," said the Velkari scientist, examining the readouts. Dr. Kethaval was smaller than the military personnel, with smoother features and 6 eyes instead of 4. "Human neural patterns are unlike anything in our databases." Jiwan tried to move, but the restraints were too strong. "What are you doing to me?" "Mapping your cognitive processes," Kethaval replied without looking up from his instruments. "Your species shows remarkable adaptability and neural pathway formation. When faced with new problems, you literally rewire your brain structure in real time." The scanning beams made Jiwan's head tingle. She could feel something probing her thoughts, but not reading them exactly. More like studying how they formed and moved through her mind. "Human military history is full of impossible victories," Kethaval continued. "Small forces defeating large ones. Primitive weapons overcoming advanced technology. Logic says these outcomes should not occur." "Maybe your logic is wrong," Jiwan said. For the first time, the alien scientist looked directly at her. "Explain. You think in straight lines. Problem leads to solution. Cause leads to effect. But real combat is chaos. The side that adapts fastest to changing conditions usually wins." Kethaval made notes on a floating display. "Show me. The scanner will record your neural activity while you solve tactical problems." A holographic battlefield appeared above the table. Jiwan could see the scenario clearly. A small human force trapped in a valley surrounded by overwhelming enemy numbers. The conventional solution would be to fight a defensive battle and hope for rescue. "There," Jiwan said, studying the terrain. "The creek bed runs under that ridge. Send a small team through the water while the main force creates a distraction. The enemy will expect you to defend the high ground, not abandon it." As she spoke, the scanner recorded every neural pathway that fired in her brain. Kethaval watched the data streams with growing excitement. Remarkable. You discard the obvious solution immediately and search for alternatives. Most species would calculate the defensive position first. Most species probably lose a lot of wars, Ji-won replied. In another part of the ship, engineer Hyun Kim faced a different kind of interrogation. The Velkari technical specialist Morkan had him examining broken devourer technology recovered from battle sites. These fragments adapt instantly to any energy we apply, Morkan explained, his mechanical voice translator making him sound emotionless. Heat, cold, electricity, radiation, they absorb everything and become immune. Hyun turned the metal fragments over in his hands. They felt ordinary, but he could see microscopic changes happening on the surface as he touched them. What happens if you do not give them energy to adapt to? I do not understand. Look at this piece, Hyun said, holding up a twisted chunk of hull plating. It is trying to adapt to the heat from my fingers. But what if you confused it? Give it multiple different energy types at the same time? Morkan's eyes brightened. In Velkari thinking, each problem had one logical solution. But humans seemed to think in multiple directions simultaneously. Show me. Meanwhile, pilot Neon Choi sat in a flight simulator that perfectly recreated Velkari fighter controls. The tactical officer supervising her test grew increasingly frustrated as she ignored standard combat procedures. You are supposed to maintain formation with your wing, the officer complained. These maneuvers violate basic flight safety. Basic flight safety gets you killed in combat, Nyan replied, spinning her virtual fighter through a series of moves that should have been impossible. The enemy expects you to follow rules. Break the rules and you break their predictions. She dove her ship directly toward an enemy formation, then cut power at the last second and used gravity to slingshot around a nearby asteroid. The enemy fighters, expecting her to maintain thrust, completely missed their targeting solutions. Human tactics make no mathematical sense, the officer muttered. Mathematics do not shoot back, Nyan said. In the interrogation chamber, Marine Sergeant Minho Lee faced a panel of Velkari military leaders. They showed him battle footage from their war against the Devourers, asking for his analysis. Your soldiers are too predictable, Minho said after watching several engagements. They take optimal positions and use optimal tactics. The machines can calculate optimal responses. What would you do differently? Asked Admiral Veltar. Everything, Minho replied. Make the wrong choice on purpose. Attack where you are weakest instead of strongest. Retreat when you should advance. Force the enemy to respond to chaos instead of logic. The Velkari officers exchanged confused looks. Their entire military doctrine was based on logical optimization. How could wrong choices lead to victory? As the interrogations continued, patterns began emerging in the data. Human tactical thinking was fundamentally different from any species the Velkari had encountered. Where others sought optimal solutions, humans sought unexpected ones. Where others followed mathematical models, humans embraced calculated randomness. Dr. Kethval compiled his findings and presented them to Admiral Veltar in the command center. The humans possess a unique form of intelligence, he reported. They excel at pattern disruption and adaptive innovation. Can we replicate these thinking patterns in our own forces? Veltar asked. Possibly, but it would require fundamental changes to Velkari military doctrine. Our soldiers are trained to follow optimal strategies. Human success comes from deliberately choosing non-optimal strategies that enemy cannot predict. Veltar studied the tactical scenarios where human-inspired approaches had been tested. The results were encouraging but also disturbing. Human tactics worked, but they violated everything the Velkari considered proper military science. Prepare for combat trials, he ordered. We will test these human methods against the Devourers. Back in the holding cells, Ji-won spoke quietly with her fellow prisoners. The cell walls blocked most sound, but she had discovered they could communicate through vibrations in the floor. They are learning from us, she whispered to Hyun in the next cell. Every test and scan teaches them more about human tactical thinking. What choice do we have? Hyun replied. If those machine things are as dangerous as they showed us, maybe helping them is the right thing to do. Maybe, Ji-won said. But I want guarantees. If we are going to save their civilization, they need to protect ours. When the guards next came for her, Ji-won was ready. As they escorted her to another examination session, she spoke to Admiral Veltar directly. I want to make a deal, she said. The tall alien turned, his 4 eyes focusing on her with interest. You are in no position to negotiate, human. I am in the only position that matters, Jiwan replied. You need what is in our heads, but we have already shown you enough to know our methods work. If you want more, you need to give us something in return. What do you want? Protection for Earth. When this war is over, you leave our planet alone. No more abductions, no interference. And if the Devourers threaten our system, you defend it. Veltar's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. You would bargain for a primitive world that cannot even defend itself? That primitive world produced the minds that might save your empire, Jiwan said. Think about what that means. For a moment, the Admiral was silent. Then he gestured to the guards. Return her to holding. I will consider this proposal. As they led her away, Jiwan caught a glimpse of the main display in the command center. The Devourer fleet was moving faster than expected. According to the tactical projections, they would reach the Velkari home system in 3 days, not 7. Time was running out for both species. Dr. Jiwan Park made a decision that would change everything. When Admiral Veltar returned to discuss her proposal, she surprised him completely. I reject my own deal, she said calmly. Veltar's 4 eyes widened in confusion. You no longer want protection for your world? I still want that, Jiwan replied. But I am not going to bargain for it. I am going to give you everything you need right now for free. The alien admiral stepped closer to her cell. Why would you do that? Because in 3 days those machines will destroy your homeworld. Millions of your people will die. After that, they will spread across the galaxy and eventually reach Earth anyway. The only way to save my planet is to help you stop them here and now. Jiwan placed her hand against the energy barrier of her cell. Release me. Give me access to your tactical systems. Let me work directly with your military planners. I will show you exactly how humans fight impossible wars. This could be a trick, Veltar said. It could be, Jiwan agreed. But you are out of time and options. What do you have to lose? An hour later, Jiwan sat in the Velkari command center surrounded by alien officers who watched her with a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. The tactical display showed the approaching Devourer fleet in terrifying detail. Hundreds of machine ships, each one larger than a city. Your standard approach would be to meet them at the edge of your system, Jiwan said, studying the fleet positions. Maximum firepower, optimal defensive formations. Correct, replied Admiral Veltar. Our strongest position. Which is exactly what they expect, Jiwan said. The machines have fought this battle before. They know how you think. So we do the opposite. She gestured at the holographic display, and the projection changed to show her alternative strategy. Instead of meeting the Devourers at the system edge, the Velkari fleet would retreat deep into their own territory. You want us to run away? Asked the tactical officer in disbelief. I want you to make them chase you, Jiwan corrected. Draw them past your outer defense platforms. Make them think they are winning. Then hit them from behind when they are focused on your retreating ships. The Velkari officers looked uncertain. This strategy violated every principle of their military doctrine. But Admiral Veltar had seen enough of human tactical thinking to recognize the logic. Implement her plan, he ordered. While Jiwan worked with the Velkari fleet, events on Earth were moving fast. The disappearance of 37 key military and scientific personnel had not gone unnoticed. Admiral Soman Chang stood in the Pentagon's deep-level command center, studying reports from around the globe. The missing people were all high-value targets. Strategic thinkers, advanced engineers, elite pilots. Their simultaneous disappearance was no coincidence. Gravitational anomalies detected in low orbit 3 days ago, reported Dr. Yeji Shin, the lead scientist on Chang's investigation team. Whatever took these people used technology that bends space-time. Intelligence analyst Taehyun Park pulled up satellite data on the main display. I found traces of exotic radiation at each disappearance site. The patterns match theoretical predictions for advanced propulsion systems. You are saying aliens took them? Chang asked. I am saying someone with technology far beyond ours took them, Yeji replied. The question is why. Chang studied the profiles of the missing personnel. Every one of them was involved in strategic planning or advanced technology development. They took our best tactical minds. This was not random. Maybe they are studying us, Taehyun suggested, learning how we think and fight. Or maybe they need our help, Chang said quietly. She had spent 30 years in military intelligence. Pattern recognition was her specialty. Gather all department heads. If aliens exist and they are desperate enough to kidnap our people, something big is coming. Deep space monitoring stations around Earth began detecting unusual activity in the outer solar system. Objects moving faster than anything in human experience. Energy signatures that registered off the scale. Dr. Yeji Shin worked frantically to analyze the incoming data. Multiple contacts approaching from interstellar space. Estimated arrival in 48 hours. The same aliens who took our people? Chang asked, unknown. But the energy signatures are different. Much larger. Much more powerful. Chang made the hardest decision of her career. Activate global defense protocols. Contact all allied nations. Whatever is coming, we need to be ready. Across the planet, military forces moved into position. Ancient missile silos opened. Satellite weapon systems came online. Naval fleets deployed to strategic positions. It would not be enough against truly advanced aliens, but it was everything humanity had. Meanwhile, aboard the Sovereign's Pride, the first test of human tactics was about to begin. A small Devourer scout force had entered the system ahead of the main fleet. Perfect for testing Ji-Won's strategies. Remember, she told the Velkari squadron leaders over the communication system, do not try to be optimal. Try to be unpredictable. Make choices that the machines cannot calculate. The Velkari pilots struggled with these instructions. Their entire training focused on perfect execution of proven tactics. Now they were being asked to make deliberate mistakes. But as the battle began, the results spoke for themselves. The Devourer scouts, programmed to respond to optimal Velkari tactics, found themselves confused by ships that did not behave logically. Pilot Commander Zethron pulled his fighter into a spin that should have made him an easy target. Instead, the Devourer weapons missed him completely, because they had calculated his trajectory based on efficient flight patterns. It works, he reported with amazement. The machines cannot predict random behavior. Squadron after squadron reported similar results. For the first time in months, Velkari forces were winning engagements against the Devourers. The machines could adapt to any weapon, but they could not adapt to tactics that made no mathematical sense. Prepare the main fleet, Admiral Veltar ordered. We implement the humans' full strategy when the main Devourer force arrives. But unknown to the Velkari, Earth's military forces had detected their returning fleet. Admiral Chang watched the approaching contacts with growing concern. Same gravitational signatures as the disappearances, Dr. Yeji reported. They are coming back. For more people, Chang concluded. Not if I can help it. She opened a secure channel to military commanders around the world. This is Admiral Chang. Unknown hostile forces are approaching Earth. All units prepare for immediate defense. Taehyun Park studied the tactical projections on his display. Admiral, they will be here in 6 hours. We need to assume they are coming to invade or abduct more people. Then we show them that Earth is not defenseless, Chang replied. Neither species understood what was about to happen. The Velkari expected to collect more human specimens and establish a research base. The humans expected to fight off an alien invasion. Both were about to discover that the other side was far more dangerous than they had imagined. On the Sovereign's Pride, Ji-Won stared at the sensor readings showing Earth's military buildup. You need to contact them, she told Admiral Veltar urgently. Let me speak to our military leaders. If you approach Earth without warning, they will attack. Let them, Veltar replied dismissively. Primitive weapons cannot threaten our ships. You have no idea what you are talking about, Ji-Won said. You studied our tactics, but you never studied our history. Humans do not surrender ever. If you threaten our world, we will fight with everything we have. Chemical rockets and metal bullets, Veltar said mockingly. Ji-Won looked at him with something approaching pity. You are about to learn why that attitude gets species conquered. As the Velkari fleet approached Earth, neither side was prepared for what would happen next. The aliens underestimated human determination. The humans underestimated alien technology. But both species were about to face a test that would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. The Velkari fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system, expecting to find the same primitive world they had visited days before. Instead, they found a coordinated planetary defense that defied every assumption about human capabilities. Multiple contacts detected, reported the sensor, officer aboard the Sovereign's Pride. Thousands of objects in defensive positions throughout the system. Admiral Veltar studied the tactical display with growing confusion. The humans had somehow deployed forces to positions that should have been impossible for their technology to reach. Weapon platforms orbited near Jupiter. Fighter squadrons patrolled the asteroid belt. Defense networks surrounded every major planet. How did they move so quickly? He asked. On Earth, Admiral Soman Chang watched the alien fleet from her command center deep beneath the Pentagon. Her years of military experience had taught her that the best defense was often an unexpected offense. All units, execute Operation Lighthouse, she commanded. Across the solar system, hidden human installations came online. What the Velkari had interpreted as weapon platforms were actually modified mining equipment and construction drones. Dr. Yeji Shin's team had worked for 48 straight hours to weaponize everything humanity had in space. First, wave launching, reported the tactical officer. Kinetic bombardment from asteroid mining stations. The Velkari ships suddenly found themselves under attack from directions they had never considered. Massive chunks of rock and metal accelerated to incredible speeds by mining equipment slammed into their shields with devastating force. Impossible, Veltar muttered. Those are construction tools, not weapons. But the humans were just getting started. Admiral Chang had studied every piece of data about the alien abductions. She knew the Velkari had superior technology, but she also knew they thought in predictable patterns. Phase 2, she ordered, cyber warfare protocols. Intelligence analyst Taehyun Park had discovered something important during his investigation. The Velkari communicated using quantum entanglement networks, advanced technology, but it followed logical protocols, and anything logical could be hacked. Across the alien fleet, ship systems began malfunctioning. Navigation computers provided false readings. Weapon targeting systems lost lock on their targets. Communication arrays started broadcasting random signals. Our networks are under attack, reported the Velkari communications officer. The humans are somehow interfering with our quantum channels. Block their access, Veltar ordered. We are trying, but their methods make no sense. They are not trying to break our encryption. They are confusing our systems with contradictory data. Dr. Yeji Shin smiled as she watched her cyber warfare programs work. Instead of trying to break Velkari technology, her team had decided to overload it. They fed the alien computers so many false signals that the systems could not determine what was real. Meanwhile, human fighter squadrons launched from hidden bases on the dark side of the moon. These were not ordinary aircraft. In 48 hours, Earth's engineers had reverse-engineered fragments of Velkari technology left behind from the abductions. Pilot Captain Do-Hyun Kim led the first squadron into battle, flying a hybrid fighter that combined human engineering with alien materials. All wings, remember your training. Do not engage optimally. Be unpredictable. The human pilots had been briefed on Velkari tactical doctrine. The aliens expected logical maneuvers and efficient attack patterns, so the humans did the opposite. Do-Hyun's fighter spiraled through an attack run that should have made him an easy target. Instead, his erratic flight path confused the Velkari targeting computers. His wingman, Lieutenant Yoonji Park, used her afterburners to accelerate directly into an asteroid field, turning the space rocks into cover and weapons. These human pilots are insane, reported a Velkari squadron leader. They are using tactics that will get them killed. But the humans were not getting killed. Their reckless maneuvers worked because the Velkari computers could not predict them. For every human fighter that was lost, 2 Velkari ships suffered damage from unexpected attacks. Aboard the Sovereign's Pride, Dr. Jiwon Park watched the battle with grim satisfaction. Admiral Veltar had ignored her warnings about human determination. Now he was learning the hard way. Your shields are failing, she observed as the ship shook under another kinetic bombardment. Those mining platforms are using gravity assist from Jupiter to accelerate projectiles to 20% of light speed. Impossible, Veltar replied. Such calculations would require supercomputers. We have been playing orbital mechanics games for centuries, Jiwon said. Every human child learns basic physics in school. Scale it up and you get weapons that can crack your hulls. Another wave of impacts rocked the ship. The Velkari had superior technology, but they were learning that humans excelled at using simple tools in complex ways. Sir, reported the tactical officer, human forces are coordinating attacks across multiple fronts simultaneously. This level of organization should not be possible for a primitive species. What the Velkari did not understand was that Earth's military had been preparing for this scenario for decades. Not specifically alien invasion, but coordinated global defense. The infrastructure was already in place. The command structure was established. The humans just had to activate systems that already existed. Admiral Chang orchestrated the battle from her command center, but local commanders made real-time decisions based on their own assessment of battlefield conditions. This distributed command structure confused the Velkari, who expected hierarchical organization. Take out their command ship, Veltar ordered his remaining squadrons. Eliminate their leadership and their coordination will collapse. But when Velkari fighters targeted Earth's command centers, they found empty buildings and decoy installations. The real commanders were scattered across the planet in mobile facilities and underground bunkers. They predicted we would target their leadership, the tactical officer reported. The entire command structure is distributed and redundant. Dr. Yeji Shin had anticipated this strategy. Her analysis of Velkari tactics showed they always tried to cut off the enemy's head, so she had made sure Earth had dozens of heads, all equally capable of controlling the battle. As the engagement continued, both sides began to adapt. The Velkari learned to expect unexpected tactics from human forces. The humans began to counter-adapt, developing new strategies in real time. Engineer Hyun Kim and pilot Naeun Choi, still prisoners aboard the Velkari ship, watched their fellow humans fight with pride and fear. They could see that Earth was holding its own, but they also knew the cost. Our people are dying out there, Naeun said quietly. But they are not surrendering, Hyun replied. They are showing these aliens what happens when you underestimate humanity. The battle reached a turning point when Marine Sergeant Minho Lee escaped from his holding cell. He had spent days studying the ship's layout during his interrogations. When the battle began and the guards were distracted, he broke free. Moving through the ship's corridors, Minho used his knowledge of Velkari technology against them. He sabotaged life support systems in non-essential areas, forcing the aliens to redeploy personnel. He planted improvised explosives in ammunition storage, using components from his own cell. Internal security alert, announced the ship's computer. Human prisoner has escaped and is causing systematic damage. Admiral Veltar cursed in his native language. The humans were attacking from outside and inside simultaneously. Every assumption about their capabilities was proving wrong. Sir, reported the sensor officer urgently. New contacts detected at the edge of the system. Massive energy signatures approaching fast. The main display showed a new threat emerging from faster-than-light travel. Hundreds of enormous ships, dark and mechanical, with energy readings that dwarfed both human and Velkari technology. The Devourers, Veltar whispered. They followed us here. Jiwon felt a chill run down her spine. The machine collective had arrived at Earth, drawn by the massive energy signatures from the battle. Now 3 civilizations faced each other in the same system, and only one was likely to survive. Admiral Chang, she said into her communications device, you need to stop fighting the Velkari immediately. We have a much bigger problem. As the Devourer fleet entered the solar system, both human and Velkari forces found themselves facing an enemy that made their previous conflict seem like a minor disagreement. The machines were here and they were hungry for technology to consume and adapt. The arrival of the Devourer fleet changed everything in an instant. Massive mechanical ships, each 1 kilometer long, emerged from the darkness between stars like metallic nightmares. Their hulls bristled with weapons that harvested energy from space itself. Admiral Soman Chang stared at the sensor readings with growing horror. How many contacts? 300 and counting, reported her tactical officer. And they are still coming through. Dr. Jiwon Park's voice crackled over the communication channel from the Velkari ship. Admiral Chang, you need to coordinate with the Velkari immediately. These machines will consume everything in this system if we do not work together. Work together? Chang replied. These aliens just attacked our planet. Because they are desperate, Jiwon explained urgently. The Devourers have already destroyed 12 Velkari worlds. Earth is next on their list whether we fight each other or not. Admiral Veltar watched the human-Velkari battle continue, even as the machine fleet approached. His own forces were badly damaged from the unexpected human resistance. The primitive species had proven far more dangerous than anyone predicted. Open a channel to the human command, he ordered reluctantly. Admiral Chang, this is Admiral Veltar of the Velkari Defense Fleet. His voice transmitted across space. I propose an immediate ceasefire. Our mutual survival depends on cooperation. Chang studied the tactical display showing the approaching devourers. Each machine ship was larger than anything in human or Velkari fleets. Their energy signatures suggested weapons that could crack planets. Terms, she demanded. Joint command structure, combined tactical coordination. Your people have proven they understand warfare better than we anticipated. And after we deal with these machines, we negotiate as equals, Veltar replied, the words difficult for him to speak. Chang made her decision. All human forces cease fire with Velkari ships. Redirect all weapons toward incoming hostiles. This is now a joint operation. Across the solar system, human and Velkari forces began the complex process of coordinating their attacks. It should have been impossible with different technologies and incompatible communication systems. But Dr. Yeji Shin's cyber warfare team had already hacked into Velkari networks. The same systems they had used to confuse alien computers now served as translation protocols. First, wave of devourers entering engagement. Range, reported intelligence analyst Tae-hyun Park. They are targeting both human and Velkari ships indiscriminately. The machine attack began with a barrage of energy weapons that converted matter directly into plasma. Velkari shields that had withstood human kinetic bombardments collapsed within seconds. Human ships, lacking energy shields entirely, simply vaporized under the assault. Our weapons are not effective, Admiral Veltar reported. Devourer hulls are adapting to every energy type we use. But the humans had been listening to Velkari tactical briefings for days. They understood how the machines worked, and more importantly, they understood how to fight adaptive enemies. All units, implement Protocol Chaos, Admiral Chang ordered. Engineer Hyeon Kim had escaped his cell during the confusion and reached the Velkari engineering section. Working with alien technicians who barely understood his suggestions, he began implementing a plan that violated every principle of logical warfare. Connect your shield generators to our kinetic launchers, he told the Velkari engineers. We are going to fire pure energy instead of projectiles. That will overload the entire system, protested the chief engineer. Exactly, Hyeon replied. The machines adapt to consistent energy signatures. If we overload our own weapons randomly, they cannot predict what to defend against. Across the fleet, human and Velkari ships began implementing chaotic tactics that their own computers warned were suicidal. They overloaded weapon systems to create unpredictable energy bursts. They used warp drives as weapons, tearing holes in space near devourer ships. They fired everything they had in random directions, using asteroids and planets to ricochet attacks from unexpected angles. Pilot Captain Do-hyun Kim led a squadron of hybrid fighters on an attack run that should have been impossible. Instead of targeting the devourer ships directly, they attacked the space around them, using fusion bombs to superheat cosmic dust and create plasma storms. The machines cannot adapt to attacks that are not aimed at them, he reported as devourer systems struggled to process the indirect assault. Meanwhile, Marine Sergeant Minho Lee had taken control of the Velkari ship's internal security. He was methodically sabotaging their own systems in calculated ways that created beneficial failures. Cutting power to Deck 7, he reported to the bridge. The resulting electrical surge will create an electromagnetic pulse that disrupts devourer targeting. You are destroying our own ship, protested Admiral Veltar. I am making your ship unpredictable, Minho corrected. The machines target based on energy signatures. If our signature keeps changing randomly, they cannot lock on. Dr. Ji-won Park coordinated the overall strategy from the Velkari Command Center, but her approach was unlike anything either species had ever seen. Instead of trying to defeat the devourers directly, she was teaching them to defeat themselves. Feed contradictory data into their adaptation systems, she ordered both human and Velkari forces. Make them try to adapt to things that are impossible. Pilot Naeun Choi, flying a captured Velkari fighter, demonstrated the principle by firing energy weapons and kinetic projectiles at the same target simultaneously. The Devourer ship tried to adapt to both attack types at once, creating conflicting defensive algorithms that paralyzed its systems. It works, she reported excitedly. The machine is stuck in an adaptation loop. It cannot decide how to defend itself. As the battle continued, the tide began to turn. The Devourers, designed to adapt to logical warfare, found themselves unable to process the deliberate chaos of human Velkari tactics. Ships that had been invulnerable to conventional attacks began suffering system failures as their adaptation protocols overloaded. But the machines were learning, slowly adapting even to chaos. The joint forces needed a decisive victory before the Devourers found new solutions. Dr. Yeji Shin provided that victory through pure human ingenuity. Working with Velkari scientists, she had discovered that the machine collective shared information through quantum entanglement networks, similar to alien communications. But where the Velkari used these networks for coordination, the Devourers used them for adaptation data. If we can inject false adaptation data into their network, she explained to Admiral Chang, we can make the entire fleet adapt to threats that do not exist. How do we do that? We make them think we have weapons we do not have, Yeji replied. Feed them false sensor data about imaginary attacks. Their ships will adapt to defend against weapons that exist only in their computers. The plan required precise coordination between human cyber warfare specialists and Velkari quantum technicians. Working together, they created phantom weapon signatures that the Devourer network interpreted as real threats. Across the machine fleet, ships began adapting their hulls and shields to defend against attacks that never came. They reconfigured their systems to counter human Velkari weapons that existed only as computer code. The more they adapted to false threats, the more vulnerable they became to real attacks. Now, Admiral Chang ordered, all ships maximum firepower on the lead vessels. The combined fleet struck with everything they had. Devourer ships that had adapted to defend against imaginary weapons found themselves helpless against conventional attacks. Hull plating designed to resist phantom energy beams cracked under kinetic bombardment. Shields calibrated for non-existent frequencies collapsed under standard Velkari weapons. One by one, the machine ships began to fail. Their adaptation systems, fed contradictory information, could not respond fast enough to real threats. The Devourer fleet, which had seemed invincible minutes before, found itself outmatched by enemies who fought with deliberate unpredictability. Enemy fleet is retreating, reported the sensor officer aboard the Sovereign's Pride. They are withdrawing to the edge of the system, but Admiral Chang was not finished. All pursuing units continue harassment. Do not let them regroup and analyze our tactics. Human and Velkari ships chased the retreating Devourers, striking with random attacks that prevented the machines from establishing adaptation patterns. The mechanical fleet, faced with enemies they could not understand or predict, fled the solar system entirely. In the aftermath of the battle, two very different species found themselves looking at each other with new respect. The Velkari had learned that technological superiority meant nothing against creative thinking. The humans had learned that they were not alone in the galaxy, and that survival required cooperation with former enemies. Admiral Veltar stood on the bridge of his damaged ship, watching human vessels move to assist crippled Velkari craft. They could have let us die, he said to Dr. Jiwan Park. After we attacked their world, they could have abandoned us to the machines. That is not how humans work, Jiwan replied. We do not abandon potential allies, even former enemies. What happens now? Veltar asked. Now we talk, said Admiral Chang's voice over the communication system. As equals. Earth has proven we belong in this galaxy. The question is whether we can work together to defend it. 6 months later, the first joint,